I hovered between life and death in an accident while protecting my husband. Yet, on the day I finally left the hospital, my husband showed no concern for me at all.
We're throwing your discharge party. I've invited my colleagues, so get everything ready.
Worse still, he shoved me, barely standing, into a storage room after I barely managed the preparations. Could there be a worse treatment? The one who saved me from utter despair was an unexpected person. This person's appearance would lead to my husband losing everything. My name is Marilyn. I work as a graphic designer at a small to medium-sized company while living with my husband, Bob. My husband, Bob, is a highly educated elite working for a major corporation, seemingly on the brink of a promotion. He's been extremely busy lately with his regular work and preparing for a promotion exam, and I've been handling most of the household chores to support him. I've recently started to receive recognition at my job as a graphic designer at a small to medium-sized company, feeling fulfilled yet busy. Unable to ask him to share household duties as I watch him work on his days off, one day we decided to go for a walk for a change of scenery. The weather was pleasant, and as we casually strolled through our neighborhood, chatting about nothing in particular and heading home, the accident occurred. Passing by a construction site for a new mansion, suddenly a loud crash came from above. Looking up, I saw a steel beam being hoisted up, coming right towards us. "Bob, watch out." Instinctively, I pushed my husband away. As he landed with a shocked expression, I was crushed under the falling steel beam. My husband, his face pale, shouted my name, but the intense pain was too much, and I lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a hospital bed. After being crushed by the steel beam, I was urgently transported to the hospital by ambulance and underwent surgery, narrowly surviving. Although my life was not in danger, I sustained numerous injuries throughout my body. The most severe was to my left arm, which was in such a bad state that amputation was the only option. It seems the falling steel beam had struck my left hand directly, and it was beyond fixing, resulting in the amputation of my arm below the elbow. Hearing this from the doctor, I was stunned and speechless. My husband, with a pained expression and tears in his eyes, apologized to me.
It's my fault. I'm so sorry. It's because you shielded me that your arm.
Despite his apology, I was speechless, spending some time in a daze. As my recovery from surgery progressed, I gradually began to accept the loss of my left arm. Cared for by my husband, I started rehabilitation. It was incredibly challenging at first, especially since I was in a coma and suffered various injuries all over my body. Not having a left hand made it difficult to balance with crutches, and I often instinctively tried to use my missing hand. Struggling with a body that wouldn't move as I wanted and in pain, I felt utterly despondent, but I managed to persevere through rehab with my husband's support. Then came the day of my discharge. My husband was as happy as if it was his own discharge, suggesting we should celebrate. His joy was infectious, but then I was hit with a shock.
The celebration will include my colleagues from work, so get ready with the food and drinks. Put some effort into the cooking.
Unbelievably, my husband expected me to prepare the celebration meal. Wait a minute, I only have one hand. I can't possibly make complex dishes alone. I hastily explained to my husband that I couldn't do household chores the same way now that I had lost an arm. However, He scowled deeply upon hearing this.
What a useless attitude. You can't live like that. Get through it with some guts.
I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. Despite having seen me struggle during rehab without my left arm, why would he say something so harsh? As I stood there stunned, he added threateningly,
Just so you know, I expect all the food to be homemade. Don't even think about serving store-bought stuff. I won't tolerate such an embarrassing display.
With those words, he left the room. His attitude left me completely numb, unable to move from the spot for a while. Not only was I shocked by his heartless words, but my spirit was also shattered by the accident that cost me my arm. I was in no state to make sound judgments. Our marriage had always been one where my husband had more say, and I couldn't bring myself to argue or defy him. On the day of my discharge celebration, I was still dragging my body around in pain, becoming dizzy as I prepared for the celebration. As expected, my husband didn't lift a finger to help, lounging in the living room as if uninvolved. With just one arm, I struggled to prepare for the celebration, taking much longer than usual. Exhausted and slumped in a chair, my husband dealt me another cruel blow.
Stay in there and don't come out. Your pitiful state is an embarrassment.
He said that coldly, dragging me by the arm to the garden shed, slamming the door shut. Dazed from fatigue, I couldn't comprehend his sudden action and was left speechlessly locked in the shed. While I was still in shock, it seemed his colleagues arrived, and the party started. I could hear their boisterous revelry even from inside the shed. It was supposed to be my discharge celebration, yet why was I locked away? What did I do to deserve this? I felt utterly despondent, as if crouching in the depths of despair. Overwhelmed, perhaps by stress or overexertion, I realized I had developed a fever. In agony, I tossed and turned, lying on the cold, dark shed floor. After what felt like an eternity, the shed door suddenly flung open, and a man's voice exclaimed, "Are you okay?" as blinding light streamed in. The man who opened the door, younger than me and my husband, was sharply dressed in a suit. Seeing me sprawled on the ground, his eyes widened in shock. He quickly helped me up and, noticing my fever, pressed a room temperature water bottle against my neck. The coolness felt soothing, and I closed my eyes in relief, weakly expressing my gratitude. With a concerned frown, he suggested, "Let's get you inside to rest," and supported me towards the house. As we entered the living room, where the party was in full swing, my husband looked shocked. Yet, he didn't offer a single word of concern for me. Frustrated by my husband's behavior, the man supporting me confronted him. "What's going on here? Why is your wife, who's running a fever, left in a shed?" My husband, drunk and flushed, laughed mockingly.
What? I just hit her because she was all wobbly. I didn't know about any fever.
Seeing my husband's lack of concern, my heart shattered.
Who are you anyway? A new guy?
My husband grumbled disdainfully, but I was too stunned to understand who he was addressing. The man supporting me yelled, "Enough!"
How can you neglect your family like this? I can't believe someone like you is part of our company. And to think you'll be under my supervision soon. It's disheartening.
His words left everyone, including my husband and his colleagues, dumbfounded. Then he revealed a shocking truth. He was the soon-to-be president, having worked at our overseas branch for years. Next month, he was to transfer to our local head office. directly supervising my husband's department. Only a few, like the current president, knew of him as he had just returned from abroad. He explained he had come to briefly visit the wife of an employee who had suffered a serious injury.
But instead, I found moaning from the shed and discovered the guest of honor collapsed inside. What an appalling treatment for a wife who protected you at the cost of her arm.
As his identity as the future president became clear, my husband's face was drained of color. Stammering, he tried to defend himself.
No, she just chose to rest in the shed. I didn't tell her to.
Fed up, I finally exploded. Enough. You pushed all the preparation on me, lounging around without lifting a finger. Then you shoved me in the shed, saying I was an embarrassment. Stop treating me like a fool. Driven by anger, I tearfully revealed the cruel treatment I had endured from my husband. This caused an uproar among his colleagues who had been watching the exchange between my husband and the future president in confusion. They angrily asked, "What do you mean?" Apparently, my husband had been misleading his colleagues about my absence during the celebration, saying, "She's just stepped out for a bit, and I think she'll be back soon."
We thought it was strange you weren't around, but to think you were locked in a shed, and to burden a convalescing wife with all the preparations. How could you do such a terrible thing?
Despite being condemned by everyone present, my husband refused to admit his guilt and defiantly tried to justify his actions.
Marilyn has always been good at household chores, so I thought it was cruel not to help her get back to normal as soon as possible. I decided to push her a bit for rehab, thinking it's for her own good, out of kindness.
I was so angry at his selfish reasoning that I couldn't say a word. In my stead, the incoming CEO glared at him sharply and pointed out,
You may not know this, but she is an extremely talented graphic designer. Surely, her abilities are not limited to just household chores, right?
As it turns out, the company I work for is a subsidiary of my husband's company. Somehow, the incoming CEO knew about my work performance. Being unexpectedly praised for my work, I momentarily forgot my anger towards my husband and felt happy. However, my husband seemed jealous that I was being praised and belittled me, referencing my injury.
Even if you say that, with only one hand, she can no longer work, right? It's all just past glory now.
Everyone present looked at my husband with contempt as he continued to belittle me. I had completely lost all affection for him and didn't want anything to do with him anymore. I finally spoke up. That's enough. I want a divorce. I wondered why I had ever saved such a person. Why did I have to suffer a severe injury in his place? Feeling a sense of emptiness, I asked him for a divorce. My husband, seemingly unable to comprehend my words, stood there with his mouth and eyes wide open. Leaving him behind, the incoming CEO took my hand and said warmly, "Please rely on me if there's anything I can do to help." My husband's colleagues consoled and encouraged me, and before I knew it, he had vanished from the scene. Our divorce was finalized without issue. Backed by testimonies from the incoming CEO and colleagues, I claimed compensation for the mental anguish caused by my ex-husband. The lawyer, fully supporting me, ensured the process went smoothly. When my injury healed, I was called to discuss my future work. With one arm gone, I knew I couldn't work the same way as before, bracing myself for a potential resignation. But to my surprise, both my boss and the incoming CEO were waiting. The CEO, aware of my abilities, offered me a job as a graphic designer within the Disabled Employment Program.
Your work is truly remarkable. It's a pity to lose you just because of the disability. Would you please continue contributing to our company within your capabilities?
Touched by his sincerity, I accepted the offer. My colleagues treated me the same, without overbearing concerns. They assigned me manageable tasks, allowing for a smooth return to work. In this comfortable environment, my design quality improved, even increasing my annual income. Though the injury and disability weren't fortunate, the outcome was more than satisfying. I live each day with fulfillment, treasuring every moment. Meanwhile, my ex-husband, infamous for his actions, became disliked by almost everyone at his workplace. Eventually sidelined, he quietly resigned. I have no knowledge of his whereabouts or doings now.